It's the Black Super News Network, bringing you the best in news, sports, and entertainment. Now here's your host, Skip Harris.
You niggas are crazy!
Guess who got some new titties, y'all?
Trade, and he's going to Chicago. Your thoughts on this decision?
Well, I had him as the number 3 point guard out there, behind Chris Paul, behind certainly Mike Conley out there. I mean, here's a guy in the prime of his career, coming off a good year in New Orleans, and now he goes in with Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic. The big question is going to be how much money is left over to renegotiate a Zach LaVine extension here. He's looking for one. He's looking to bump up his money from 19.5 to that max number. We'll see how much money's left to maybe get him a new deal. But I love that signing right there.
By the way, Adrian Wojnarowski breaking that story. 4 years, $85 million, agreeing to that deal with the Pelicans, then on a sign and trade going to Chicago. And now this opens up the door to what New Orleans is going to do to keep Zion happy as well when you talk about the spacing and the flooring with their guards. Bobby, he's going to be with us all hour if we have more breaking news with NBA free agency now starting here this hour on Sports Sessions. Let's start with Kawhi Leonard. He has declined his $36 million player option with the Clippers to become a free agent. He's less than a month removed from surgery to repair a torn ACL. There's currently no timetable for his return. Fresh off his first NBA Finals appearance, Chris Paul has also opted out to become a free agent too. The 11-time All-Star shot 50% from the field last year for the first time in over a decade, but he's expected to stay in Phoenix. The Heat are positioning themselves to become frontrunners to land Kyle Lowry in a sign and trade. Miami picked up Goran Dragic option this weekend, making him a contract fit to include in a deal with the Raptors. Stephen A. Smith joining us now with much more on this developing story as NBA agency is here. So, Stephen A., if Lowry goes to South Beach, how much of a threat would the Heat be to the top teams in the East like the Bucks and the Nets?
To me, the threat would be minimal. I've got a lot of respect for Kyle Lowry. I think he is a big-time point guard. He averaged 17 points a game last year. He's poised. He's seasoned. He's a champion. He defends. He's definitely an upgrade from what the Miami Heat would have in Kendrick Nunn and Goran Dragic. There's no doubt about that. But when you look at the way Milwaukee is constructed, when you look at the way the Brooklyn Nets are constructed, and you see that in comparison to the Miami Heat, I don't believe that he's going to be that significant of an upgrade to upset or upend what's going on in Brooklyn and Milwaukee. I don't see that being that big of a factor.
Okay, after reaching the NBA Finals inside the bubble, the Heat were swept by the Bucks in the first round this past postseason. Stephen A. standing by for the entire hour if we do have breaking news. Thank you very much. Let's bring in our guy.
All right, guys.
Who understands, of course, all this stuff when it comes to big cap implications. That is our front office insider, Bobby Marks. So show us this sign and trade here between Miami and Toronto for this to work here, especially on the Miami side.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces here, and it started yesterday when the Goran Dragic option was exercised, $19.4 million. The Heat could have just elected to decline it and act as a team with cap space, potentially between 22 and 28 million. Now they are over the salary cap, and what they're going to try to do is work out a sign and trade. So you are looking at players like Goran Dragic and Precious Achiuwa. How do you get within Lowry's number, which is probably right around $27, $28 million? And when you slide Lowry in and you take both of those players out with Dragic and Achiuwa, that's kind of your roster. The good thing here is that you still have Duncan Robinson. You still have his bird rights, so you can bring him back, even if it's a contract for $16 million. You'll still be under the hard cap, which is at $143 million. They also have the $9.5 million mid-level exception. That's the beauty of staying over the salary cap here. And the big question is that who will come? When you're looking at Evan Fournier, Josh Hart, players like that. One name to keep an eye on, I think it's going to cost you a little bit more than that mid-level, is DeMar DeRozan. What's the market going to be for DeRozan? And the Lowry decision is like a domino effect as far as where everything else goes. But keep an eye out for DeRozan. Keep an eye out for players like Doug McDermott potentially, because they still have the money to go out and sign another player.
You brought up a key point here. Lowry's decision affecting everybody else, a domino effect, right? If this happens, he goes to Miami. Two teams that were interested in Lowry, the Mavericks as well as the Pelicans. And the Pelicans just announcing, we just find information coming in here, a sign-and trade that is breaking news. Lonzo Ball.
Quote, just wants respect when it comes to a potential new deal with the Bulls. He is, of course, entering the last season of his 4-year, $78 million contract, but he can sign an extension this summer, could receive a 4-year, $105 million extension. Of course, if he waits till the next offseason, he could re-sign for more years and more money. But it sounds like he wants to lock up that security now. How does this request affect not only LaVine, Brian, but how the Bulls are approaching free agency overall?
Yeah, this was a great quote. He said, I want my respect, and I respect him wanting his respect because he's outplayed his contract. The Bulls have a very delicate next 2 to 3 days. They have huge free agency aspirations. They are definitely interested in Lonzo Ball to make him the franchise point guard. They even may be able to work a sign and trade with the New Orleans Pelicans if the Pelicans have another option at point guard. They want to make sure they're going to get him if they're going to go after him. But here's where things could get complicated. From what I am told, they are also interested in DeMar DeRozan and are interested in pulling off a possible double sign and trade where they would send Lauri Markkanen to San Antonio and San Antonio would then sign and trade DeMar DeRozan to Chicago. That would import 2 spectacular talents to play alongside Zach LaVine. But it's complicated. A lot of teams want DeMar DeRozan, but they're probably going to need the Spurs' help. Like the Miami Heat talked to the Spurs about signing and trading Andre Iguodala for DeRozan, and the Spurs told them, we have a better offer out there. That better offer could be to acquire Lauri Markkanen. But what Zach LaVine is saying is, look, I'm willing to work with the Bulls front office here, but I want to get paid now. And the only way that can happen really is if the Bulls clear enough cap space to give Zach a raise on this year's salary and then extend off of it, because that $105 million you mentioned is not market value. So in theory, the Bulls could still do those deals and then trade off other players or even cut players to create space and then give Zach LaVine his extension on top of all of that. But pulling all of that off, and it would be a grand slam, is going to be tough. And there may have to be some sacrifices or, letting things go in there. And Zach LaVine may be the guy who has to do that and let an extension pass for now.
So fascinating. A great window into how complicated this is for a lot of front offices. Chris, I can't help but whenever we talk about the Bulls to think about how the franchise's entire path would have changed earlier in the decade when you and Dwayne Wade were considering going there instead. That was a real branch off timeline Loki sort of moment for that franchise. Instead, they have gone the path that they have, and now they are looking to put some more pieces around Zach LaVine, around Nikola Vucevic, who of course was traded there this season. If you're Zach LaVine, do you understand what he's saying, Chris, about how, hey, this is great, but this entire time I've been here, we've been through moving pieces, we've been through coaches. I'd like some money now, please.
Look, I can definitely understand where he's coming from. Individually, he's hitting all the marks. And he's pretty much saying, like, look, pay me. And they should pay that man. Pay that man. And on top of that, there are things you do have to figure it out. I'm not saying that it's easy. But pay that man and put a team around him that they can form for a couple of years. I think sometimes when you're in that position, that he's in, he's had all the individual success. He's playing with the Olympics. He's had all-star appearances, dunk championships. He wants to win, and I'm sure he wants to win now. They have a lot of talent and a very solid core, but I'm sure what he's saying is, on top of paying me, let's put a good team around me, because he is a prolific scorer. He's very good on the offensive end. I think they do have a window with him. And as we've seen in the East, you never know. You could be one free agency signing away or one trade away from getting to the championship. So I think if from where Zach LaVine is coming from, not only does he want to get paid, but he wants to be competitive. And I'm sure it's tough for him to see other guys in his situation, his peers, being in those situations, making deep playoff runs and having that chance because they have a solid team around them as opposed to a revolving door.
And I'll say, back in March, I started hearing about Lonzo Ball with Chicago and Charlotte. And the Charlotte thing is certainly interesting because his brother's there, and I would certainly love to see them two together. And we got to remember that Lonzo is restricted. So, New Orleans is going to see if it's not a sign and trade what this offer sheet is.
Sure.
If they can't find another point guard.
You mean the Bulls? Or
No, I'm talking about New Orleans.
Then they'll want that.
I mean, New Orleans could still match him and force him to stay.
But that's complicated too, because then there's a cap hold. They've got a few days where they can't negotiate with other players until they decide if they're matching with Lonzo or not.
Yeah, but if the free agent market, you're right, Rachel. If the free agent market doesn't seem kind to them in terms